Welcome back to the Let's Talk Baseball podcast. I'm your host, Michael Herrera, joined by my good friend Jacob Payne. Got a lot to talk about. Some covering off some WBC stuff. I know me and Jacob both went to a game. I went to the Great Britain USA game, got the cool hat. Jacob went to the Mexico USA game. And we're gonna continue our power rankings. But yeah, so let's get into it. Jacob, how have you been doing, my man?
Absolutely on cloud nine, Michael. Let me tell you, driving 12 hours in 2 days was well worth it to see that USA Mexico game. Absolute dream come true. Um, me, big fan of baseball, so being able to watch the boys in Stars and Stripes get to play against the neighbors from down under. Absolutely incredible. The energy in that stadium was off the charts. I've never been to a baseball game like that. It was just so absolutely incredible. And obviously, I was rooting for USA to win, obviously, clearly, but I am glad that Mexico was able to take the win and they were able to put on such a dominant showing against such an astounding lineup. So that was awesome.
Yeah, it was great games. I won the Great Britain USA game. I mean, just up into the final out too. I got a video on my phone. It's whole stadium just chanting USA as David Bednar closes out. It was just wow, it was chills, man. It was awesome. Obviously, Mexico moved on, Venezuela moved on. We got the Japan Italy game in a couple hours, so that's gonna be a very interesting game. I'm watching the Dominican Puerto Rico game on my other monitor. That's a Puerto Rico, man. They're if they're that's an upset. And then of
Can
course we got
you
the
can you imagine Dominican Republic not making it through, dude? I mean, if you would have told
oh
me 2 weeks ago that the Dominican Republic would have a huge chance of not making it through, I'd say you're
yeah.
you're absolutely crazy. But looking at it right now, it's they're in dire straits. It's not impossible, but they're in dire straits. They got to make a huge comeback here.
And obviously the USA playing against Colombia later today. They're in a good spot no matter what, but they most likely need to win this game. But for another time, we'll get back into our power rankings. We left off with 30 as the Oakland Athletics, 29 as the Washington Nationals, and 28 as the Cincinnati Reds. Of course, we're building this as we go. And I put a team up on my 27. And I think these two teams, of course, like we said, I already said that these three teams are the Tigers, Royals, and the Rockies. We can probably assume safely that these are the next three teams. But and I want to hear your opinion on this because I put the Tigers at 27. And what do you think about that? Do you think Tigers is a right 27 for them?
Yeah, I would say they are. I would say for a couple years now they haven't been competitive in a division that hasn't been competitive. And I mean looking at these additions and losses, um nothing's really jumping off the board. DJ Peters, homegrown hometown hero. I would love to see him starting anywhere he plays and succeeding. That'd be great. But nothing crazy. And I mean, to be fair, they really haven't been in a pole position to really make anything happen. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's kind of like it's one of those things where I never really talk about the Tigers. You never hear them in the news headlines. Like they're not even the worst of the worst or the best of the best. Like you hear all the best teams in the headlines, you hear all the worst teams in the headlines. You don't hear about the Tigers. You don't hear about the Royals. So like I mean it's hard to gauge, but as of right now, it doesn't really look like they're really doing anything to either make themselves better or plan for the future.
Yeah, I mean, of course that they spent some money last year. They brought in Era, they brought in Javi Baez, and they kind of did level that down a little bit. Their two moves of the offseason were bringing in Michael Lorenzen and Matthew Boyd to kind of bolster that rotation. Obviously, was a even bigger worry and concern for the team, especially after Scuball went down. We don't know the timetable for his return. Hopefully, he's back by opening day. But we had a lot of disappointing seasons from this team last year, especially with the likes of Spencer Torkelson. He was the number one prospect at one point, and he just did not show up. And Javi Baez, man, he has struggled greatly. He has an opt out, so they're thinking that maybe they could get something for him if he does perform well and they're not in a spot in the next few years. Maybe they trade him, but I don't know. I just don't see they lose Chafin. Daniel Norris. There's Jaime Candelario playing for the DDR, who's had a nice, pretty solid couple at bats. But I think what damages them the most, besides injury treatment, they lost Joe Jimenez. And I don't know if you've seen his stat page, but he was one of the sneaky best relievers in all of baseball. He went to the Braves, but and they didn't get that much of a return for him as you would have expected. But just looking at where they are, who they've been, I mean, the most you can expect is hopefully Spencer Torkelson comes back and Riley Green just continues to show up. And of course, I think a lot of things would have to go right for this team to improve in any general manner. And I think a lot of that would be the bounce back season of Akil Baddoo. I mean, he was looking like the next big thing for the Tigers, and he again also another very disappointing season last year. So if they can get some production from these guys, Javi, from Torkelson, from Baddoo, if they can bring back Erod, no one knew where he was for like the second half of baseball and last year. If they can just have some stability within that lineup, within that rotation, they are in a good spot, not to compete, but to move up at least a step in that division.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at this 40-man roster and just, nothing's really jumping out at me. Obviously, Javi Baez in there, but not really doing too much last year. Like you said, Spencer Torkelson, the spotlight was kind of on him, and I wouldn't say he quite flopped per se, but he didn't do what we were hoping he would do, right? We were hoping he would jump out onto the scene, kind of just kinda come out and play his game, and we didn't quite see that, unfortunately. But, I mean, Austin Meadows, I would say he's the closest to a household name. I mean, you got, Miguel Cabrera, who's, um, just did he just retire, or is he retiring this
Yeah,
season?
this is the last season.
This last season's, yeah, so this is his, farewell tour. Hopefully at 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 bare minimum, he has a good season, a good send off. You know, 50-50 ball at best, you can imagine. But like you said, with Eduardo Rodriguez kind of not showing up, it's tough. It's tough to really get behind this lineup in any aspect.
Yeah, just you want these rookies to succeed, and it's hard to just do that in the middle of nowhere when they've been struggling for the past, I don't know, what is it, 8 years now? And you really hope Miggy has a career. I think career, or not a career, but just a better year. I mean, that's what I think they're gonna hope for, just to do it whatever they can to improve, to at least show Miggy that this is that they're gonna improve and that they're kind of having this enough kind of for tour for him. So I kind of want them to succeed, but as we know that we can't just go out there and say we're gonna do stuff and expect these teams to do it because baseball can change like that. And that can happen to anybody. We could see Mookie Betts all of a sudden, God hope not, knock on wood, but turn into one of the worst players. We can see like Cody Bellinger. He was one of the best players, and now fortunately one of the worst players in baseball. And hope he's hoping for a bounce back season. And like we said, a lot of guys hoping for a bounce back season. They are moving in the walls to bring in some of that. Not a hitters friendly park. They were one of I don't know if they were the worst, but they were one of the worst teams in home run hitting last year, like the worst. So they're hoping that can bring in a little bit that can help them with the power. But there's just not a lot you can expect from this team. I think if they had a ceiling, it's to be fourth place, and I'm that's being generous because the Royals. If me personally, I really do like the Royal squad more than the Tigers. But they're the Tigers over under. It's at 70 games. I think, considering all things considered, I hope they get to 70. I think that's their goal. Let's not lose 60. Let's not lose more. Let's not lose. Sorry, let's win more than 65. But I just think it's not gonna happen. I think Miggy's at the end of his career. I just hope he has a good season and that they can bring him some joy in that dugout.
Yeah, yeah, I'm gonna take the under as well. Like we were saying, I don't see any star power on this team that can really bring it to life, and that can change. if these rookies come in this season and kind of set the world on fire, I would say they can kind of almost rise in a sort of Oriole-esque way and, have a lot of young talent and make something happen. But right now it's really gonna depend on I would say offensive output from their rookies. If they can get that, then they'll have a chance at making a splash. If not, I'm gonna say realistically, it's gonna be a less than 70 win season.
Riley Green MVP. I'm kidding, no, but you kind of gotta hope for him, and he's been showing good signs this spring training. So I'm hoping that at least one of these guys can have a bounce back season, whether it's Javi Baez, Austin Meadows, or whoever it is in that lineup, just to just to show some signs of improvement, because the Tigers are in my heart because of Miggy. So let's see what they can do for him in that last season. For 26, I want to keep it in the AL Central with the Kansas City Royals. I think the Rockies are a better team than the Royals. Who they lost? They lost some kind of big pieces, not a lot, but they lost three almost essential parts of the lineup for the past 2 seasons. Alberto Mondesi goes to the Red Sox, Michael A. Taylor to the Twins, and Ryan O'Hearn to the Royals. They did add some pieces, a lot of pitchers, a lot of lefties too. Josh Taylor, Aroldis Chapman, Ryan Yarbrough. They bring in Matt Beatty, our guy from the 2020 World Series Dodgers. He got a minor league deal. Jordan Lyles to kind of round out the rotation. Franmil Reyes, hoping he can bounce back. And of course, they brought back Zach Greinke. And I said this earlier, a couple seconds ago. I like this squad more than the Tigers because I think I'm gonna take Trevor Plouffe from John Boy Media from Talking Baseball his line. This is a lineup that you can kind of dream upon because you've seen a taste of what these guys can do. MJ Melendez is having a really underrated run in the WBC right now. Bobby Witt Jr. We all know what he can do. He probably would have been one Rookie of the Year until J. Rod just came in and knocked expectations out of the water. Nicky Lopez, a guy who's done it before. They got Nick Prado, Vinny Pasquantino, the Italian kid. He's expected to get a good run. He had some very nice moments for them last year in the outfield. I mean, not a lot you can expect. They lost Benintendi this year, and they lost Michael A. Taylor. Drew Waters does go down for, I don't know if it was 6 weeks or 6 months. I think it was 6 weeks. But I hope that he can come back because he was looking like a real sign of hope for them. And of course, you got Salvi, who is also crushing it in the WBC. So I think, and who just hit 48 home runs 2 seasons ago. There is hope for this team that you can see this lineup at least produce at a good level for 162 games. The pitching is a question because everyone is having a Brady Singer to have this breakout year, and he has struggled in spring training and he has struggled in the WBC. So what we will really see of him, we don't know because that rotation has been pretty abysmal for the past couple of years. Zach Greinke had a pretty nice year. Actually, I did not think he had as great as a year as he did before I looked at the stats, and I was like, okay, that's a pretty nice year to round out that rotation. But they got a lot of vets on this lineup. Hopefully, maybe some of the rookies can teach Aroldis Chapman a thing or two about owning up to some stuff. Because falling down the stairs and breaking your lip, I don't know if that's a believable story. At least Joe Musgrove had an actual. I dropped the bar on my toe. But you never know, man. I think if worse comes to worse and we see the White Sox or Twins have a bad season, we can see the Royals fight for a third place, maybe. And that just might be me being optimistic, but I truly think if these guys perform, we could see this team do more than anyone expects, which is a lot more than I can say, and I can't say that for the Tigers.
Yeah, like you were talking about, this roster's kind of interesting. They've got a couple of solid rotation pieces and Zach Greinke, Brad Singer. Obviously, we haven't seen perform as we expect him to, but plenty of time to kind of blossom into this season and get rolling. I don't think there's anything to be too afraid at. And in the bullpen, I mean, you got a Amir Garrett, you got a Aroldis Chapman who could find form again, could pull a Craig Kimbrell. You never know. Ryan Yarborough, I think he's a great piece. And then like you were talking about with this kind of roster that they've got, I would say their infield looks really good. Their infield looks really good. I mean, Pasquantino, you got Nicky Lopez and Bobby Witt Jr. Nicky Lopez has had a great WBC so far. Um, and then the addition, what I love about this Beatty pickup is you can put him wherever you want. You need a first baseman, you need a third baseman, you need an outfielder. Hell, I'm sure he would pitch if you really wanted him to. Like, I loved Matt Beatty when he was on the Dodgers. I thought he was a huge asset, and I hated to see him go. He is a great utility piece, and above all else, his offensive production really ticked up towards the end of his stint with the Dodgers. Now, granted, he didn't perform so well on the Padres, but he's got what it takes to be a great utility person and a great person to have just on the team to use wherever you need them. Um, so I would say the depth is decent for this Royal squad. I just don't think they have that oomph. I don't think they have that spark that can drive this team up a level. Like you were saying, if the White Sox um, have a bad season, if the Guardians have a bad season, there's room there to do well within the division. But beyond that, I don't see too much happening from here, unless like we've said before, unless we see some really incredible improvement with the rookies. I think for a lot of these teams towards the bottom, that's where it's gonna have to start. It's gonna have to start with some rookies coming up and just showing up and playing their game and putting up numbers that they've been doing in the minors. Will we see that? Probably not. But that if the Royals were to succeed, or I mean, if any one of these bottom teams were to succeed, that's where we're going to need to see it happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're gonna see a very, very big improvement from Bobby Way, especially with the fact that he knows that he's got these guys now that can come in and teach him a lot more. Whether it's a pitcher, just about being staying in the game. Fredman, I mean, he's been a power guy, but he's kind of a vet now when you really think about it and look back at his career with the Padres, with the Guardians, with the Cubs, even. Just a guy who has been all over and can really just kind of just give some guidance in that lineup. And I think again, like it'd be cool if we saw this team compete because I kind of like I said I like this team, but realistically, it's not gonna happen this year. But there is hope for improvement, and I can't say that for the Tigers. I can say I can hope they improve, but I can say there is actual hope for improvement that they can do something that they can prove that they do something, and that's what I really like about this team, and that's why they're over under. That's 69 games. They won. What did they win last year? How many games did they win? They won. Drum roll, please. They won 65 games last year, so they are expected to improve. And I'm gonna go with the over. I think I'm not. Again, I'm not saying they're gonna finish positive. I'm not saying they're gonna finish third place even. I think they're a better team than the Tigers, and I think I like this team enough, and I think these guys can perform well enough to maybe win 70 games. I think that's their ceiling.
Yeah, I agree. In fact, I am as well going to take the over on these boys. I think there's enough room for them to win 70 games or more. Now, I'm going to say this, it's contingent on the Central being as much of a mess as it has been in the past years. Um, the Chicago White Sox for years now have been touted as the best team in the Central and continue to shit the bed. You have the Guardians, who I will say played very well last year, but I'm going to be honest. Personally, I think they swung a little bit over They kind of overshot their goals for last season, which hey is great. They played great, and you know what? They got hot when it mattered, and they played well when it mattered. Okay, they didn't put up a lot of runs, but their pitching was stellar, and they did exactly what they needed to do to win a couple of postseason games, turn some heads, really kind of bring in their form of baseball. It's not the most enjoyable baseball. It's a lot of long games. It's a lot of pitching duels. But you know what? They really pulled it out towards the end of the season. But again, I don't think that was them playing their what they should be. I think that was them playing above how well they should be. Yeah, we have the Tigers we just covered. Just no star power, nothing behind the team to really push them to do anything. And then the Twins, a little confused, kind of good, made some good acquisitions, but at the same time, we've known the AL Central to be a kind of mess when it comes to the regular season and teams not really performing how we think they will. So I think they can get over 69 wins. I think they could get 70, 71, maybe 75. But I think it will be uh, uh that will be the case if the White Sox, Guardians, and Twins all kind of not perform as we think they will.
Yeah, 100% agree. And that concludes our bottom five. Moving on to, so good job for teams since from now on that aren't the worst of the worst, I gotta say. And kind of surprised, kind of an interesting thing I want to talk about. No one from the NL West from the AL East made it. So I think that just proves who the best divisions are in baseball. And of course, you got the Dodgers, so they're gonna be the best division in baseball. But I don't know if that's just messing. But let's staying in the NL West. Let's go number 25. I think I got the Colorado Rockies here. Didn't really do much. They didn't really lose much, but they lost some important guys, and they added some guys who can obviously have good seasons. They added Brent Suter from the Brewers to add some lefty to let some lefty have the lefty depth in the pen. They also added Brad Hand from the Phillies, who a lot of people I know didn't like as a Philly last year, but he had a really nice season. Like I was like, okay, maybe for the Rockies that he can prove something that maybe they can have pitching that actually works. They brought in Pierce Johnson to the rotation, Connor Siebel from the Red Sox, Harold Castro, Mike Moustakas, a nice vet to have in this lineup with Charlie Blackmon. I think they are gonna guide some kids this season. And they brought in Nolan Jones from the Guardians. That was a really interesting trade. That can save them with some news I'm gonna bring up in a bit. Who they lost: Garrett Hampson, Jose Iglesias, Chad Kuhl, Carlos Estevez, Alex Colome, Sam Hilliard, and fan favorite Connor Joe. Which I was really surprised at because he was every Rocky fan I talked to loved Connor Joe, and he wasn't a bad bat either. So I was like, what are you doing? And what pisses me off the most about this Rockies offseason is how their owner just came out blatantly and said, oh yeah, we can win 500 this year. And I hate it how other managers are pressuring me to spend money. That's the point of the game. Like, what do you, what, I was just so dumbfounded by what he said. And that really makes me hope that they sell the team soon. And you gotta admit, their stadium's really nice, but it's just tough when you're a pitcher there having the career season of your life, and it can get ruined just like that. Because balls don't break and you give up 8 home runs, because it can happen to anybody. But in another big blow to this season, Brendan Rodger. I don't know if it was something in his arm. I think that he just got injured, and his timetable for the year is in question. He's kind of their star right now, besides Chris Bryant, who is hoping for a bounce back season. Obviously, had his injury concerns last year. He's hoping to finally break through at this stadium. He doesn't even have a home run at Coors Field, which is like, bro, you're Chris Bryant. How do you not have a field? How do you not have a home run at a field that you can hit a pop up that could go into the seat? So it's just, I mean, they have some guys there, I think, but there's not enough guys where I think they can make much of a jump in the West, at least.
Yeah, looking at this Rockies roster, brings up a couple of things, right? One, their pitching is actually better than I realized it is. I mean, we got a couple of cats in here. Daniel Bard, I can't get a read on this dude, man. Like, there are days where he is untouchable, like, looks like he's got some of the nastiest stuff in baseball, and then there are days where he is just so utterly flat. And don't get me wrong, I know Rockies baseball, I know that there are times where pitches don't break as much, but I mean like more than that. I mean more flat than just Rockies baseball flat. It's 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 bizarre, man. Like it's crazy how fluctuating his potential is. But I think I want to say they have a good piece with Daniel Bard. It's just he can't be consistent. Um, you got Kyle Freeland, great piece there. Brad Hand. Let's see.
Quick thing
Her,
about Kyle Freeland, real quickly. I was at the game. He pitched a couple innings at the WBC game. He looked
yeah,
nice when he's not at Coors Field. So
right,
if he can
exactly.
put up some good numbers at Coors Field, he can line up for a really nice season. They had that big extension a couple years ago. They're obviously hoping he can be a cornerstone for that rotation. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, Herman Marquez, that dude is I would say is their ace. Alongside who's Jose Urena. Um, just they've got some great pieces. Antonio Senzatella. They've got some good pitchers, going on to the fielding positions, we got Elias Diaz, CJ Crone. Let's see. Um, just names that jump out. Obviously, I want to say Charlie Blackmon's retiring soon, right?
Think so. I think he has 1 or 2 more years left on that contract. So I
Yeah.
think he's almost a goner.
Um, yeah, and then obviously Chris Bryant, Randall Grichuk. So this lineup has potential. It's just they've been so so flat sometimes. Their offense just doesn't get going, even at home. Obviously, with the Rockies, they're in this weird position in the MLB. It's a lot different than every other team, and so you have to take all of their stats with a grain of salt. But when you have a mile high offense that should be at bare minimum performing in their mile high offense, and they can't do that, that's the issue, right? And I remember watching one of the John Boy episodes, talking about how they build their team. They build their team towards power, right? They build their team because they want home run hitters that can really hit home runs in their stadium. And that's good and all, but don't you think after years and years of it not working, you want to try something out new? And with the new rules in baseball, as John Boy clearly pointed out, you could build a team around contact. You can build a team around speed and take advantage of those rules. And the fact that Coors Field is such a hitter friendly park, um, I mean, you want guys there hitting doubles, triples, and if you can string a couple together in the inning, that does better than just one dude hitting a solo home run in the inning. So I'd really like to see the Rockies go in that direction, but like you said, with the managers who's saying that he's hard pressed to spend money, what else are you supposed to do? Are you supposed to hire other investors? Like what do you want? Like that's what baseball is. Baseball's a business. And to perform well as a business, you got to spend money. You got to spend money to make money. Nobody's going to go to your beautiful stadium if you're only winning 50, 60 games a season. That it's just not going to cut it. In a powerful West division, you are not going to make any sort of headway if you don't spend money. You're in a division with the Dodgers, the Giants, and the Padres. I mean, to be fair, the Padres have really started to find themselves within the last few years. But are you kidding me? If you think you don't need to spend money, you are not going to win an NL West title in the next 20 years minimum. Because these three franchises alone are going to stomp you out with their budgets. Um, it's just a fact of the matter, right? Obviously, we have the Giants who are a little bit of in a neither here nor there period, but then you got the Diamondbacks who aren't putting up so much money, but they're filling out a roster that kind of looks
I
sick.
love the Diamondbacks this year.
Like, what are you gonna do? Like, you're just gonna sit there and not spend money? Okay, then just sit there and keep being last place. Like, it's just it's a matter of learning how to play the game. And if you're not going to play the game, don't play the game. Sell the team. Sell it to somebody who will buy somebody. Like sell it to somebody who will go out and spend money on a Shohei Otani. Uh, uh, on a Cohen who will spend $500 million in one offseason to prove a point. Like, yeah, I get it. You don't have to be that guy who spends $500 million in an offseason, but you got to do something, man. You lost some big pieces. Uh, uh, Connor Joe, Sam Hilliard, Jose Iglesias, those are some big Rockies pieces. Some fan favorites. Chad Cool, Garrett Hampson. Those were some impactful dudes. And they who did they add? Cole Tucker, Brad Hand, Mike Moustakas. I don't even know if Moustakas is really in his previous form that he was with the Royals. If he is, great. If he's not, like I don't know what they're doing, Michael. I don't know what they're doing. They get rid of some of their big pieces. Um, the kid who went to the Red Sox, third baseman, shortstop.
Trevor Story.
Trevor Story, that's it. You have a generational talent in Trevor Story, and you think you're gonna, build a roster around him. You get rid of him. Okay, that's cool. Now you're gonna rebuild. Then you sign Chris Bryant. Like what's the plan here? Like are you trying to build a team that's trying to be competitive? Are you trying to sell everything for prospects? What are you doing? You're in this in-between phase and it's not even justified. At least the Giants can justify their in-between phase because they're between some great seasons. The Giants just beat out the Dodgers for the pennant the other year by getting one more win than them. At least they can justify an in between year where they're not selling everybody, but they're not buying big. The Rockies, you can't say the same. You just can't. I love and I hate this team because they've got so much potential. They've got a beautiful stadium. They've got a tough but feasible division, and they're doing absolutely nothing with it. Nothing. It's so many missed opportunities season after season. I really think they need some new management.
I 100% agree. I mean, Bud Black's doing everything he can, but I mean, again, that's kind of whether this direction is going. What can you do? Because there's not a lot you can do. I mean, I'm just thinking of this lineup. You could have had a lineup that had Trevor Story, C.J. Crone, Chris Bryant, and don't forget Nolan Arenado, who they traded away. And they got some prospects for it. Not even some great ones, but I'll give them that. And they didn't even try to trade Story away. They just let him go. They got nothing
They
back in
let
return.
him expire to free agency period. That was the dumbest thing I think I've seen a team do in a long time. We've got a kid who has got some serious talent. You could do one of two things with him: build a roster around him or trade him for as much as you can get. And you do absolutely neither of the two. You lose him at free agency, and then you make the weirdest signing of all with Chris Bryant. Like, I just don't get it. It doesn't, there's no there's nothing I can fall back on for the Rockies and say at least they're doing this right. They've got nothing going for them. They haven't had good seasons. They haven't had performers. Their big guys that they banked on haven't really performed like they've wanted to. The guys they've traded away have done quite well, other than really Trevor Story, but I don't think he's really got that time that he's been able to. So that's kind of an iffy point. But Nolan Arenado is I mean, he received MVP votes this past season. He is, he's a star like no other. I mean, if you weren't going to bank on Trevor Story, you'd figure you'd bank on Nolan Arenado to build a roster around. I don't get it, Michael. Help me understand what the Rockies are trying
I
to
know.
do.
I'm.
It's not baseball. It's not GM baseball. It just doesn't. Nothing about the Rockies makes sense, man.
I 100% agree. And going back to what you said about the Giants, I kind of want to point out something real quickly here. The Giants kind of depended on these vets to kind of teach a few young guys. They still had Buster Posey. They still had Darren Ruff, who was kicking it that year. I will admit, he cannot swing a bat for his life right now. But he was kicking it in 2021. And they had these guys come in, and that was their identity. They had a team identity. And like you said, they've been trying to go, the Rockies have tried to go for this power team, but it hasn't worked. And they don't have an identity. You're supposed to be one of the most powerful teams in the baseball. With that ballpark, every single one of your players should be hitting 30 home runs at minimum. And it just sucks to see that they don't. Because a beautiful stadium's going to waste. Some great players who have great potential are going to waste, and it's just rough. Because if you're gonna follow this formula, like you said, you're getting nowhere, and you're anywhere anytime soon. Yes, you got Chris Bryant, but would you rather get Chris Bryant or would you rather keep Nolan Arenado on Trevor Story? And I know Rocky fans are mad because they might have overpaid him, but that's what kind of they have to do because they can't really show that they have future here. I mean, granted, you got some guys who are gonna get some time this year who are going to be studs, with the likes of Michael Tolia, with the likes of Zach Veen, with the likes of Jeromo. But again, you just never know. And we also would never thought it happened. Jacob, Dominican Republic just lost to Puerto Rico. They had a Rockies baseball moment right there. So going to the final hot points, going on this over under, I know for a fact I'm under because I'm not even like I said for the last two teams, you can hope upon them, but I don't have hope for this team. They have a good roster, granted, with guys who can perform, but and the reason I like the Royals a little less is because they don't get the comfort of having a division for something to fight for because they can just walk away with 70 wins and be okay. The Rockies, they have something to fight for. Fourth place, because there was a point last season where they were positive. So that's why I'm taking the under. What do you take, Jacob?
Yeah, I don't I you may have said the number. I don't think you need to say the number. I've got the under. Uh I know we've kind of ranked them higher than some of these teams, and I think because on paper they're a better squad than some of these teams that we've talked about. But like you said, there's nothing to take from this team and say this is their shining light. This is the thing we can get behind. It's a team that hasn't been able to perform and hasn't proven that they will be able to perform in the next few years.
Hey, sorry about that. Of course, we do have the Zoom, which is 40 minutes. We're hoping to get a new streaming service very soon. We're gonna get on Spotify probably, hopefully, next week in another actual recording site to help us film longer videos. But thank you for joining. Jacob sends his best. I'm your host, Michael Herrera, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. We will be continuing with our power rankings next week. Monday, again, we're starting on Monday, Friday schedules. Hope you guys enjoyed. Enjoy your day. Thank you for listening to Let's Talk Baseball.